Making some pretty good progress on the body filler work. There's actually quite a few more areas than there appeared at first. I mean, it seems like there's a lot, but it's really very thin. It's mostly just to smooth out some very small imperfections. Got some of the other body panels done, and they were just some spot repairs, so those are coming along. Got a couple on that, a couple on the fender. I already did some on this fender, so haven't touched any small parts. Doing the big stuff right now, but it's come along pretty good. It was, the worst part was over here. There have been some damage that had been repaired before. These quarter scale pieces are coming out pretty good. Still a big issue here though. This was never installed properly, so I'm not sure how I want to fix that yet. Really what needs to happen is this needs to be cut on that edge, and then cut, and then actually the whole thing needs to come over, because otherwise the molding and the glass will never line up properly, which it didn't. But I don't think if I just cut this, it's going to throw off this mold line, and then it throws off the molding, and then the angle's not right, so that's going to need a little bit of work, I think. But I think it's coming along pretty good. Much going on with the Mustang. I was sick for about a month, but I have pretty much got the body filler work done and smoothed out pretty good. It took a little bit more than I thought, but I got everything pretty straight. So what I want to do now is spray the high build primer. I want to at least do it on the two doors and the body, and then I can hang the doors and just check to make sure that they look good and they line up with the body panels. I already had the doors on, had to make a little bit of an adjustment here with a little bit of filler to get a good transition with the door. So I want to use the high build primer and do it on the body and the two doors. I'm getting sick of body filler work and sanding, or sand and filler. So I'll shoot this on the body and two doors, and then I'll be able to block that out. Got a couple of good coats of high build poly primer on the body the other night. That's all dry, ready to be sanded. I also got the doors primered, and now I got the hood and trunk and the two fenders and the front valance panel prepped. They're all body fillers smoothed out. They're all cleaned off, ready to go. Sanded to 180 on the epoxy to give it a good grip for the poly primer. No need to do the back sides. That'll just get a sanding, and then a block sanding, and then a couple coats of epoxy, and then some more block sanding. So there's no real filler work. I'm going to leave the little pieces till later, just because I kind of want to get the bulk of the big parts done, so they're not in the way, and it's a little tight in here, so it's easier to break it up into little sections and do different pieces at a time. So next time you see it, it'll be all pink primer on these pieces. Got two good coats of poly primer on the panels and fenders so they can dry for a while. I spray a little in this section in here because when I strip the paint, it can't get way up underneath this edge, so there was a little bit of a line where the old primer was. So I figured I'd spray some poly primer in there, and then I can sand it, blend it in a little bit so you don't see the line where I stopped stripping. Got some block sanding done. Started on the easy stuff, something easy to get to. Quarter sail panel, and did some of the roof. So pretty much you sand it until the pink is gone and it turns gray. Yeah, you can get regular gray and then just use guide coat, but it saves a step. And it just, I don't know, it's easier. You just don't have to worry about guide coat or anything. But I'll use guide coat when I go from the 180 up to 320. So make sure I get every spot. But this starts to show, you know, like little tiny low spots. This was a high, this was a little bit high, but now it's all block smooth. Now you know that it's, you know, nice and straight. So that'll be the next stage, is all block sanding. Now the primer is ready to be sanded. I'm going to run over it with 180 grit on a orbital sander, just to take the rough surface off and the hard shell. And then, you know, it's a little easier to sand at that point. Not really going to change the contour much. I'm just taking the kind of the rough crust off. So it's a lot quicker with the DA sander than doing it by hand. And then I'll go back over it with the sanding blocks with 180 and smooth it out. Making some pretty good progress. Got the high build primer sanded to 180 on most of the body. There's a couple of blemishes that need to be worked on a little bit more, but overall coming out pretty good. This ended up sanding through to the filler, which is fine. It's perfectly okay as long as it's nice and smooth, which it is now. So they'll take another coat of primer. A little bit of a bump here I gotta smooth out. These sail panels came out real good. Very happy with that. So I got started on this one fender. That one's pretty good shape. It's all sanded, but a little bit of a divot right here. That might need a little, just a very tiny bit of skim coat of filler, just to bring that up a little bit. And I got that splash pan sanded, but got the rest of the body panels to do. So it's coming along pretty good. I'm very happy with how it's coming out. There's 2 good coats of epoxy primer over the final body work that was all blocked out, so it's really nice and smooth. Everything came out, blemishes are gone. There's no more dips or waviness in the panels. So now I'll go back over everything with guide coat in 320, because that'll pick up any minor imperfections. Sometimes the epoxy doesn't lay that smooth. You'll get some, I don't know if it'll pick it up here, but you can get there some orange peel. Maybe where I put it on a little heavy and it starts to, but that's okay. That'll be picked up with the guide coat, and we can sand that nice and smooth. There's some more areas here. That's just the nature of spraying with epoxy. I know some people can do it really smooth, but sometimes they don't have that great luck. But I already did the one half of the roof, and I'll start doing over here. It goes pretty quick. I use a machine. I use this hand sand block, for a soft block for the edges and corners so you don't burn through. Even if you do a little bit, it's not a big deal. I can still use, I'll thin down epoxy as a sealer over the top of this in case there's anything I burn through, and then it can go right to the base coat. You can see where I went over it already, but there's some scratch marks showing through. That's that guide coat in the grooves of the scratches. So once I hit it up with the sander, it'll take that out.